Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Bibbity Bobbity Books. My name is Ellie and this is going to be the 12 Days of Christmas book tag. So if I've got my scheduling correct, I believe this video is going to go out on Christmas Eve. So I firstly want to take a moment to wish you a very Merry Christmas. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, I hope you just have a fantastic day anyway. And I just want to acknowledge the fact that I know this time of year can be difficult for a lot of people. So if that's you, I am sending you so much love and I really hope that this video brings you some kind of comfort, some kind of escapism, whatever you need from it. So yes. As I said at the beginning of this video, this is going to be the 12 Days of Christmas book tag, so it's just a fun festive tag that's based on the song. And I haven't actually pre-planned or prepped this video, so I'm just going to kind of try and come up with answers for the prompts on the fly. So I hope that I can come up with some decent answers for you. I also just want to say that next door are having some work done on the house, so if you hear some noise in the background, that's why. The builders are making a bit of noise, and yeah, but this is my only day off, so I wanted to film this video anyway, so I really hope that it doesn't ruin the video. But anyway, without further ado, let's jump straight in with the first prompt. So the first prompt is a partridge in a pear tree. What is a favourite standalone book? So for this prompt, I am going to choose The Sword of Kaigan by M.L. Wang. That is a standalone adult fantasy book and it's so fantastic. It's set in this place called the Sword of Kaigan, which has quite traditionalist views, and the women in this place are expected to be housewives and the men are expected to train to be warriors. And we follow two main perspectives, a mum and her son, and the son has a very idealistic view of what it means to be a warrior and to be in a battle, and we see his perspective shifts when war does eventually arrive at the Sword of Kaigan, and he sees the sort of harsh realities of war and what it actually is like to fight in a war. And we also follow the perspective of his mum, who is kind of taken on this traditional role basically to conform to her parents' expectations and to her society's expectations, but she has had experience in other places. When she was younger, she got to travel a little bit and she got to experience different cultures and she got to learn some skills herself outside of just being a housewife. And when war comes to the Sword of Kaigan, we see the lengths that she will go to protect her family, and she has such an amazing character arc. I love her character, how flawed she is, how realistic she is, and how fierce she is. And I just really enjoy that we have a really well fleshed out female character who is in her middle ages, you know, as a mum. And yeah, so I just love that story and had to pick that one for this prompt. The next one is Two Turtle Doves, fictional OTP / favourite ship. So I guess that means what's your favourite like romance to ship between two characters, and instantly A Court of Mist and Fury comes to mind, because if you know, you know. A Court of Mist and Fury is book 2 in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J Maas, which is a young adult fantasy romance series. It's very steamy, it's very over the top, it's very tropey, but I love it all the same, and especially book 2, and I just really enjoy the romance in there. If you know, you know. And yeah, that's got to be my choice for that prompt. The next one says, 3 French hens, what is your favourite trilogy? So as of right now, I think my all-time favourite trilogy is the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden. I just love that one so much. It's a historical fantasy series set in medieval Russia, and it follows our main character Vasilisa, who has the unique ability of being able to see household spirits. And the story takes off when her dad goes to Moscow and brings back a new wife, and his wife is a devout Christian and she has very different views to how Vasilisa has been brought up. She sees the old ways as kind of a bit of a sin. She thinks that the household spirits that Vasilisa can see and communicate with are actually demons, and she's very frightened, so she brings a priest to town to try and rid the town of these so-called demons. And we watch the effect that has on the town and the people who live in it, and things start to go wrong, crops start failing, and evil dark creatures from the forest start lurking closer to the village, and Vasilisa's kind of the only one really that can see that this is connected to the fact that they are getting rid of their old ways and it's being replaced by Christianity. It's so whimsical, this book. It's got a very atmospheric setting because it's set a lot of the time during winter, so there's a lot of survival elements in there, how to you know, live during the harsh winters and deal with things like crazy snowstorms. But also it's creepy at times. It draws a lot of inspiration from folklore from Russia. I like the description of the household spirits, and it's just very whimsical and lyrically written. So if you enjoy beautiful writing and you like something that has a little bit of a fairy tale influence, then I would highly recommend this series. The next one is For Calling Birds. What is your favourite fictional beast slash creature? So when I think of fictional creatures, the first thing that comes to mind is the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb, because that involves a type of magic called the wit, which is essentially the ability to communicate with and bond with animals. And the main character in that series is a man called Fitz, and he is able to use this magic to bond with a wolf called Night Eyes. And I just love that character in the book and think it's so fun. It's such a unique type of magic as well. I've not really read other magic systems like it, and it's also just a fantastic series anyway. If you enjoy slow-paced fantasy, it's got a classic medieval setting, it involves lots of political machinations, and it's incredibly character driven. I think that you'll really enjoy this one. The premise is basically that Fitz is a royal bastard and he's delivered to the keep by his family, who don't really want to look after him anymore because they see him as, you know, someone who should be looked after by the royalty because he's a bastard basically. And he gets taken into the keep and raised by the stable hand, and then the king decides to train him up as a royal assassin. And so we kind of watch that journey really. That's where it starts off, but it kind of goes off and we find out a lot more about the world, the politics that are going on, the magic system, and it's so great. It's also very emotive. You really feel connected to the main character because it's all told from his point of view. So you're spending 24 hours in his head and you're watching him go from a young boy to an adult and everything that happens to him in between, and you can't help but feel invested in him and his story and moved by some of the events that happen in the books. The next one is 5 Golden Rings. Show 5 golden books. I assume that means 5 books with gold covers. I can't think of any books that I've read that have gold covers. Oh, except for Fourth Wing, obviously, by Rebecca Yarros. That one's got a completely gold cover. That one is a new adult, I would say, fantasy romance that follows our main character who is going to a military school to train up to be a dragon rider. I quite enjoyed the first book actually, but wasn't so fussed on the second book in this series, so I don't know if I'm going to be carrying on with it. What are other books that have gold covers? I'm gonna have to scroll through my Goodreads, hang on. Oh, Empire of Gold, that's a fantastic book actually. That's the 3rd book in the, what's it called, City of Brass series, and it's a historical fantasy and it follows our main character who is a con artist living on the streets of Cairo in the 18th century, I think, and she has this affinity for healing and she uses that to her advantage on the streets to kind of swindle the wealthy and make her way in life. And then one day she performs this ritual that she doesn't think will actually work, but it does, and she ends up summoning this jinn warrior into existence, and he tells her that he thinks she has magical origins and that her ancestors probably came from this city known as the City of Brass, and so he takes her there to seek refuge because she is being hunted down by these other evil creatures, and it kind of takes on from there really. But it's so much fun. It has a nice little sprinkling of romance in there too, and it's just really refreshing to read a fantasy that's set in the desert rather than in a sort of medieval type setting, because I feel like a lot of them tend to involve castles and dragons and that kind of thing, which I do love, but it's also quite nice to read something with a slightly different atmosphere, and I did really enjoy that one. What else has a gold cover? Apparently I haven't really read many gold books. I mean, there's A Pinch of Magic by Michelle Harrison. That's a middle grade that has like gold on the front a little bit. That's a really nice story. That's kind of like a witchy middle grade, and it has quite a nice family dynamic in there. We follow, I think it's 3 sisters, and they're trying to solve this mystery. It's been a while since I read that one, but I remember it being really cozy and also quite atmospheric as well. Perfect for like autumn winter, I would say. What else have we got? Censor by Junji Ito has like gold strands on the cover. That's quite a fun one. It's a sci-fi horror manga, and the premise is that there is this explosion, this volcanic eruption, and this volcanic hair like settles down on everything and it affects people, and it's very bizarre, very strange. As you would expect from Junji Ito, there's quite a lot of body horror in there, so if that's not your thing, steer clear. But I quite enjoyed that one. Was that number 4? I think so. So I just need one more. I'm gonna go with Small Favours by Erin A. Craig, because that has little bits of gold on the cover as well. This one I feel like has quite a deceiving cover because it looks quite innocent, it looks quite spring-like, and like it's gonna be like quite nice and fluffy, when actually it's really creepy, this book, and quite scary, and I loved it because of that reason. It's quite a fairy tale like story, and it follows someone who lives in this village that is bordered by this forest, and there's rumours that there are creatures in the forest, and it starts out with some people who travel away from the town through the forest to do a supply run, and they don't return, and the villagers think that they've been attacked by beasts, and so they're afraid to go after them, and so the village has to try and survive the winter with what little rations they have, and people start getting paranoid, neighbours turn on each other, and there may or may not be sort of creatures lurking, and it's a wild ride. It's quite slow paced in the beginning, but it has a really big escalation towards the end, and I just loved it. Okay, so that was 5 golden books. The next prompt is 6 Geese are laying, rotten egg. What's your least favourite book? Oh man, that's hard. What's my least favourite book? This might be a little bit of an unpopular opinion, but I really didn't like, what's it called? Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. I just really didn't get on with the writing in that one, which is such a shame because I've really enjoyed other books written by this author. In fact, Uprooted is like one of my favourite books, and that was written by Naomi Novik, so I don't know why this one just didn't work for me. But this one is the first book in a series, and it follows children who go to this school that's basically trying to kill them. So there's like loads of monsters in this school, and they have to try and survive, and to make it through graduation they have to basically fight their way through this big hall of monsters. Sounds like kind of a cool premise, but the writing, oh my goodness, I really didn't like the writing in this one. It was just so exposition heavy, such boring info dumps, and I just didn't feel connected to the characters at all, and yeah, I just didn't get on with that one, so I'm gonna choose that. Number 7 is 7 Swans Are Swimming. Show a book with water on the cover. I know what to choose for this one. I'm going to choose The Wager, written by, who is it written by? Hang on. Written by David Gran. This was so much fun. This is actually a non-fiction book about an English vessel in the 1800s, I believe, and it actually became shipwrecked off the coast of Patagonia, and the crew had to try and survive on this desolate island for months, and eventually they created this like flimsy raft made out of bits of the wager that they sort of scavenged from the shore. And they sailed for like 100 days across the ocean until they reached the coast of Brazil, and it's just ridiculous what these people went through, and it's presented in such a compelling way as a non-fiction. So even though it's telling facts about real people and real events, it's told to you kind of like an exciting story, and I couldn't put it down. It was fascinating. It involved lots of sort of mutiny and obviously survival, and yeah, absolutely fascinating. Loved it. Number 8 is 8 Maids A Milking. What fictional food do you wish you could taste? I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is butterbeer from Harry Potter. I love the way that that's described in the book, the fact that you have this warm, cozy drink. I think it's described as like tasting like shortbread, and it just sounds so delightful. So I'd probably pick that for this prompt, or maybe some of the candy from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Although I'm not sure if I trust that candy, considering one of the characters literally blows up and turns into a giant blueberry. Maybe not, we'll stick with butterbeer. Next we have 9 ladies dancing. Favourite dance between 2 characters. Favourite dance. I am gonna choose, what's it called? House of Salt and Sorrows by, is it Erin Craig? I'll put the picture on the screen so you can see the title and the author. This was such a fun story. It's a fantasy retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses fairy tale, and it involves this royal family who live on this island out in the sea, and everyone thinks that their family is cursed because there's been quite a few tragedies in the family. Quite a few of the daughters have died, and we follow one of the daughters who is trying to figure out what happened to the most recent of her sisters who died, because she doesn't believe that it was an accident, and she thinks that there's something suspicious about the way that she passed away. And so it's kind of like a mystery, but it also has a lot of fantastical elements in there as well, because the daughters end up going to these magical balls. So they kind of sneak out at night and attend to these glittering balls. So there's obviously lots of dancing in this story, which is why I've chosen it for this. And what I loved about it is how creepy it is. It's so creepy, and it really puts together the wonder and the spectacle of like a fantastical glittering ball with some really dark and creepy bits as well, and I just loved that blend. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I was surprisingly like freaked out by it. I really wasn't expecting it to be as creepy as it was, and I was very pleasantly surprised. Next up we have 10 Lords A Leaping. What is your favourite book to movie adaptation? I mean, obviously it's got to be Lord of the Rings. The movies are fantastic, and I would say arguably better than the books. Oh, I don't want to create any dramas online here, but I'm a huge fan of the movies. I think the attention to detail that was placed by the producers and just everybody who worked on the movie is insane. The sets, the costumes, the scenery, the like shots that you get in there, the character, the whole thing, I just love it, and could watch those movies over and over again endlessly. And yeah, I would have loved to have worked on those movies. It looked like so much fun, and I mean, come on, it's iconic. The next one is 11 Pipers Piping. Favourite book to movie adaptation soundtrack? I mean, Lord of the Rings. The soundtrack in Lord of the Rings is incredible, but I feel like I need to choose something else because I already said Lord of the Rings for the last question. If I'm going to choose something else, I'd probably pick Pride and Prejudice, the more recent movie with Keira Knightley in it. The soundtrack for that is absolutely beautiful as well, and really, really fitting for the story. So yeah, I'd probably choose that one. And the last question is 12 Drummers Drumming. It's the end of the song. What is your favourite book ending? Ooh, I feel like this is going to be a hard one for me to choose because I typically don't like endings. I am very hard to please when it comes to an ending, so I honestly can't think of anything off the top of my head. I've also like started a lot of fantasy series and haven't completed them. I'm awful, I know. I really need to sort of finish out a lot of the series that I've read. I'm just going to pick a standalone because I can't think of anything else right now, but the standalone that I'm going to choose is Our Wives Under the Sea, which was written by, hold on, Julia Armfield. I read this one earlier this year and I just absolutely loved it. I thought it was such a unique and beautiful and also sad story and I feel like the ending was really poignant and was really fitting for the journey that we went on and for the story that was being told. So I really thought that it had a very moving ending. So if you haven't heard of this one before, it's a standalone speculative fantasy lyrical literary book. It's one of those that kind of spans different genres, but it follows a couple, and one woman in the couple is a marine biologist, and she goes on this submarine mission to the bottom of the ocean, and something goes wrong and she ends up spending a long time down in the depths of the ocean. I think she was only supposed to go down there for like a week or something and ended up being there for like a month. So yeah, she experienced this very traumatic event in her work life. Oh, my cat just knocked the camera, so I'm sorry if the angle changed. I think I was just talking about Our Wives Under the Sea, and I was explaining that one member of the couple goes on this deep sea mission, and when she comes back she is changed, and we follow how that affects her relationship with her wife. So it's very much a story about their relationship, and the characters in it feel very real and raw, and it talks a lot about grief, I would say, and grieving for someone who is still there. So you know, thinking about the loss of a relationship that you perhaps had before. You know, you might see someone you love change and you're kind of mourning who they were before, but you also are not allowed, or you don't feel like you can mourn them because they're still there and they are still your wife, and you know, you still care very deeply for them and will do anything you can to help them, but at the same time it's had an effect on you both and the relationship that you're in. And yeah, I just thought that it was a really interesting way to explore those themes, and the ending was very beautiful and also very moving in my opinion. Okay, so that brings me to the end of this video. Those were my answers to the 12 Days of Christmas book tag. I'd love to hear your answers. Please do drop them down in the comment section below. I'd love to have a chat with you. As I said in the beginning, I hope that you're having a fantastic time during this Christmassy season, whatever it is that you are doing, and I'm wishing you all the best. I hope the new year brings you so much joy, and yeah, don't forget to like this video if you did like it, subscribe if you want to see some more from me, because I'm so close to 1,000 subscribers, which is just insane. It blows my mind. So if you could help me reach that goal, that would be absolutely amazing. Okay, right, well, I will love you and leave you. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time with another video. Bye!